Every time I hear the name of the episode, I just want to sing. Summer dreams makes me feel fine, flowing through the daggers of my mind.
You're out of control.
Perhaps I could use this as an excuse to go to those far-off planets with little polka-dotted people if necessary, and be able to talk about love, war, nature, God, sex, all those things that go to make up the excitement of the human condition.
I'm Captain James Kirk.
Spock.
Your move, Captain. Jim Kirk of the Enterprise.
What's going on?
I'm James Kirk. These people are my friends and my shipmates. Leave my crew alone.
Out of the question.
How about that?
James Kirk.
It fits like a glove, Captain.
Oh, the bonehead ideas.
Gentlemen, I'm Captain James Kirk. Get out of my chair. Get out of it now.
My greetings and felicitations, Captain. So good of you and your officers to, drop in. Absolutely smashing.
Hey everybody, welcome to Humanist Trek. It's a Star Trek podcast about the humanism in Star Trek. I'm Sarah Ray.
And I'm Allie Ashmead.
Welcome back to another episode. It's almost Thanksgiving. Not that we celebrate such things. But
really.
So this coming Sunday, we are having, I guess some people call it like Friendsgiving, but we're going to have a bunch of people over and do the meal, right?
Oh, okay.
But we're not doing like, thank you to our ancestors who came to this country and slaughtered all the people.
Hold hands and pray.
Right.
Okay.
So it's, again, I think we've said this before, but like any opportunity to get together and eat some good food, we'll do that.
Yeah.
So all the kids that I worked with at the zoo, we invited them to come over and have a,
You still keep in touch with them?
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we're going to do that. And then the kids are off, all week next week for
Are they?
fall
the
break.
Whole week?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, awesome.
Well, first of all, they only go to school 4 days a week, which, by the way, I love. So they have Mondays off.
That is fair. I want to be a kid again.
Right?
Because, yeah.
Yeah.
I would love
For
that.
sure.
4-day weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, so that'll be fun. We'll have everybody over and do the Thanksgiving thing without the, colonialist
Yeah. Just have a meal together.
backstory to it. Somebody posted something about, I think it was, attacking's not the word. Let me think. Somebody posted something about
Calling out.
Yeah, called us out for setting up Christmas early, right? We talked about that on the last week's episode, setting up Christmas before Thanksgiving has even happened. And I was like, cool, but I don't celebrate Thanksgiving. And like, again, fall decor, that's one thing. But this person was like, I have my fall leaves and like describing the decorations for fall. And one of them was pilgrim candles.
Fuck off.
Right?
Fuck off.
Right? And I was like, ooh.
A pilgrim candle. What is that? What even is that?
It is. I swear to God, it is a pilgrim candle.
What even is that? First of all, who's a pilgrim? Who the fuck is a pilgrim around here?
Nobody. So pilgrim candles are like, I shit you not, legit look like the pilgrims with a wick out their head. It's a candle.
We can just throw that in the fire.
Yeah.
So throw the whole thing in the fire.
Yep.
Just,
Yeah. So I was like, ooh, okay, I'll give you the fall decor. You want to keep your red and yellow leaves out?
Right.
Okay. But this pilgrim, I said something to the effect of like, you won't find a damn thing with pilgrims on it in our house.
Yeah.
And worse than that, and I kind of wish Becca was here to talk about the story, but like when our son was in kindergarten, right? We were in an arts magnet choice, whatever school in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Really loved the school. All its programs are great. The teachers were wonderful. We loved everything about it. With this one exception, and that is that our kindergarten kids did a little play for Thanksgiving where a third of them were dressed like Indians, quote unquote Indians.
Yeah.
A third of them were dressed like quote unquote pilgrims, and the other third were like priests.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah. And they acted out this little thing. And I was like, are we really in 2000, whatever year this is? Are we really doing this right now?
Yep.
But then you look at all of this shit that's going on, especially in Florida with the education and what their governor is trying to do. And now all this banning these books and all this bullshit.
Kind of like the last episode, when you have ignorant children, they're going to do stupid things like that or just ignorant, insensitive things like that. Because I remember doing growing up, every Thanksgiving we would make out of construction paper, we'd make the little pilgrim hat and the buckle. And, and we would do the Indian things. And I didn't think anything of it.
No,
even knowing,
I didn't either as a kid.
But I don't think I knew that. I literally thought we're taught that like the indigenous Native Americans sat down at a table.
Yes, and had a big old meal. Let me teach you how to grow corn because you're our new friends.
Yeah, no, that's
that
not
whitewashed bullshit
that's
history.
That's not how it went. And they were slaughtered, and there was genocide, and they keep. And it's almost like the system is set up to try to continue to get rid of the Native Americans that are still left.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I just like, I don't want any part of that.
So much of what happens in politics is a thinly veiled attempt at being racist and retaining white power.
Absolutely.
So much of it.
Yeah. So my kids and
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving. The kids and I, we try to get out and do stuff, do something together or make memories or, like last year was my first year in Colorado. So we took the day and we did like Cave of the Winds.
Oh, I love Cave of the Winds.
And then we also did Garden of the Gods, which is gorgeous. So we just kind of like had a day.
Did you do the thing at the Cave of the Winds where they shoot you out on a cord? It's like a cable that runs out across the...
You mean a zip line?
Yeah, kind of like that, but you're in a seat.
Fuck no.
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 So when we were there, they had a... Way off topic. They had they had this climbing structure thing. Do they still have that?
I think it was closed.
It was but it like hangs over the side of this giant canyon.
I don't know. Does it close in the winter?
Maybe.
Because we went like on Thanksgiving Day.
Okay. Yeah.
And a lot of
But it was like a ropes course kind of thing where you like put your kid in a harness and they climb up the little things and walk across the things up high. And anyway, we did that and that was really cool. But then they also had this you sit in a seat and they just shoot you out over the canyon and then pull you back up.
Oh, I don't know.
It was so cool. It was so much fun.
I just, no, the pit of my stomach is like, that's not, just thinking about it. But no, we're just trying to think of what we're going to do that day. I think we might go to like Meow Wolf or
that sounds
if
good
it's open.
Yep.
Or we're going to just find a nice, cool place and go hiking.
Yeah, that'd be fun. A fall hike.
Oh, yeah. There's still some trees with leaves. I still I want to see it. So with those gorgeous colors. So.
Yeah. So we're doing the Friendsgiving thing before. I don't know that we'll do anything on actual Thanksgiving Day. We'll probably watch the parade. That was always a thing we always did was watch the Macy's. I can remember like being out at my granny's house in the country while everybody was cooking and preparing the food, sitting and watching her little, fucking 20-inch TV.
Yeah. Black and white sometimes.
The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Yep.
All right, well, let's get to our episode for this week. It is Star Trek, the original series, Season 1, Episode 10, Dagger of the Mind.
Sir, contact with an object. It's moving toward us. No visual contact yet.
Deflectors, full intensity.
Mr. Sulu, yes, Captain. Anything on your scanners?
It's coming at light speed.
Collision course, visual contact.
Anything, over?
All wavelengths dominated by ionization effects, sir.
All engines full stop.
So right off the bat here, we get an image of this large cylinder container that says, and the label says, caution, infrasensory drugs, destination, Tantalus Penal Colony, attention, Dr. Tristan Adams.
Right.
And the way it's shot, I couldn't tell at first if this was like an up close of a pill bottle.
It looked like a very large pill bottle.
But then when they cut out to the wide shot, it's giant. It's like a big oil barrel sized thing.
Yeah.
And an engineer crewman sets in on the transporter pad and Kirk walks in as they try to beam it down, but it just won't go.
It's not working. It's not working.
Kirk reminds them that you can't just beam shit down to a penal colony. You got to call first and have them open the door. And I thought this whole thing was stupid. Like, did you go to Starfleet Academy? How do you get a job on the flagship of the fucking whatever and not know that you got to call and have them put the shields down before you beam shit down? I did not like this at all. It made these engineers look like idiots.
Yeah,
and
he was like rubbing it in their face, but yeah.
Yeah, like, are they really that stupid? Come on, I don't think so. So the red shirts tell Kirk that they're also beaming up some cargo, some research that's supposed to go to the Central Bureau of Penology in Stockholm. and then beams this giant box.
Yeah. And on the box is printed, classified material, do not open.
So Kirk walks out, and one of the red shirts kind of like grabs a clipboard and turns around like he's writing readings down off the wall.
Yeah.
And the ominous music starts playing, and the lid slowly lifts up to reveal a man inside. And then the man climbs out of the box and sneaks up behind the red shirt and karate chops him to
On
the back of the neck.
They love that move.
They do.
Everybody gets knocked out by that
Everybody gets
way.
the karate chop.
Not on the head.
No,
on the back.
right on the neck.
Yeah.
Yep. So he's unconscious on the floor now. And this guy tries to leave the transporter room, but he opens the door and is like, oh shit, there's way too many people out there. So he like pulls back inside, and then we go up on a close up of his face, and he's got these like
big old.
He's meant to look like wide-eyed, crazy
madman.
Something, yeah.
Big blue eyes. We got cargo on the loose.
And that takes us into the theme song. On the bridge, Kirk and McCoy are chatting. Kirk wishes he could have met Dr. Adams, and it seems like he's intrigued about the way penal colonies are operated under Adams' theories.
Yeah.
And Bones is like, okay, but a cage is a cage is a cage.
Yeah.
And
which is, I'm like thinking of the first,
yes.
The very first, the pilot, the episode.
Yeah, that clicked with me right away. Of like,
yeah. Kirk seems to be like enamored with this guy. He's like famous for advocating for more humane treatment of patients. And
I'm with you there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yep.
And he says that these penal colonies are more like resort colonies now.
So Uhura gets a call from the colony. They've lost one of their inmates.
Dun, dun, dun. Uh-oh.
Cut to the transporter room, and now this intruder has put on the incapacitated redshirt engineer's jumpsuit, and he slips off into the halls. Uhura calls a ship-wide security alert, and one of the security officers finds the intruder pretty quickly, calls it in, and we get a short bit of dialogue narrowing down his location, but then the intruder has now snuck up behind the security guard, and like he does this chokehold move on him, and he passes out, and he snags the guy's phaser.
I don't know if you noticed this. So when they call Tantalus to tell them they've got possibly an intruder or something on board, did you listen to the lady's voice?
No, I did not notice any of this.
So I was trying to think, okay, that's not Majel Barrett, but it sounded like she was trying to do some type of accent. It sounded horrible.
Huh. No, I missed that entirely. So Spock makes an interesting observation to McCoy. He says, you Earth people glorify organized violence for 40 centuries, but you imprison those who employ it privately.
Ooh, I went, Spock dropping some nuggets.
I love this observation about humanity, right? Because he's right. Like we are happy to form militaries and bomb entire fucking countries.
But then one person goes and does the same thing that we do as an institution, and then let's put him in jail.
Yep.
But so McCoy says back to him, well, of course your people found an answer for that, and Spock says that they disposed of human emotion because without it there would be no motive for violence.
Right.
So, yep. We can just wrap up the show right now. Yep, that's our show for today. Spock is like dropping knowledge here.
So the turbolift doors open, and the intruder karate chops the security guard at the door, who drops down to the floor. And it really feels like he's got like this full-on panic attack happening now. He demands to know which one of them is the captain. And here's when we learn his name is Van Gelder, and he asks for asylum.
Right.
And agrees to hand over the phaser as long as Kirk promises not to take him back to the penal colony. But Kirk won't make that deal.
Right.
He's like,
no deal. And then Kirk and Spock's moving over to him, and Kirk is doing the eye thing, kind of looking at Kirk, and they kind of do like this bait and switch type thing.
Spock moves in, and he like turns to deal with Spock, and Kirk does a high kick and knocks
knocks the phaser out, and then he turns back to Kirk, and then Spock does the pinch, the nerve pinch. I was like, nice. That's a nice move.
Yeah, good teamwork.
Yeah.
So they take him to sickbay. McCoy has to give him 3 sedatives to keep him under control. And they have a conversation here about the prison system. Kirk's prepared to simply return him to the colony. This guy's not our problem. Let the penal colony worry about him. And Van Gelder is like, really? This is your system? Like, let other people worry about me? Nice.
Yeah, he calls He calls Kirk a smug, button-pushing brass hat. I mean, I guess it's better than like jackass or something.
Right.
And he's like, he calls him that for like washing his hands of the problem. Like you said, he's like, oh, just push him off on someone else.
And that made me think again, like we've talked about this a little bit before, like our propensity to just lock people away and get them off the streets so that they stop causing trouble or whatever, with absolutely no regard to the humanity of that person or what they might be going through.
Yep.
Kirk asks his name again, and each time he says, my name is, he has like a spasm, like it's really painful, like it's taking him a lot to be able to even say his name.
His own name, yeah.
Simon Van Gelder. And he's still struggling to speak, but he's trying to say that he was the director of something at the Tantalus colony, and then he says like graduate of, and then assistant to, and then he finally like collapses into this laughter.
Yeah.
That was kind of like, again, meant to be like wide-eyed crazy and
ranting like a madman.
And there is a lot of, probably the way that I'm talking about it is not great, because I will say like wide-eyed crazy person. And I know that's an ableist approach to it. So help me out, everybody. How do I say
ranting? I mean, I'm saying madman, which I don't think is probably not a good.
There's an opportunity for us to learn through this.
Yeah. But like,
that was
someone
definitely
not in control of his faculties.
Yeah,
I don't know. He's not in control. So yeah, I don't know.
And he says he used to know, but they erased, edited, adjusted.
Yeah.
So it sounds like these doctors at the colony have been fucking around with his memory.
Yeah.
McCoy has to sedate him again here. And I'd like to point out, he hyposprays him through the uniform. He didn't have to rip the shoulder off. So,
like they did on the other episode, and I was like, I know they're doing that for drama. Because they do it through the fucking shirt. I'm like, what?
On the bridge, Spock is studying some Encyclopedia Britannicas in his view screen.
I know, right?
It's
the ship's library.
It is, yeah. And he's studying Dr. Simon Van Gelder. He was assigned to the colony only 6 months ago as an assistant to Dr. Adams. So what we thought was an inmate may not have been.
It wasn't an inmate at all.
Kirk rings up the colony, and Dr. Adams explains that Van Gelder had been working on an experimental treatment, but believed that he had no moral right to test his treatment on an inmate unless he tried it on himself first.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's another thread of humanism to pull on, right? And like we'll come back to that later.
Yeah.
Kirk puts Adams on hold because McCoy doesn't believe this story. And so Kirk again points out, like, look at how much Dr. Adams has done to, quote, humanize prisons and the treatment of prisoners.
Yeah. He's a real fanboy for this dude.
It's kind of an appeal to authority, right?
Yeah.
There's some logical fallacy happening here where this guy can do no wrong because he's done so much good for this.
Which, yeah. It's clouding Kirk's, in my opinion.
For sure.
Yeah.
Kirk says these penal colonies aren't cages. They're clean, decent hospitals for sick minds. Sick minds. Maybe that's a better way to...
Sick minds.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And that would certainly be an improvement on the way we handle these issues today.
Yeah.
Spock interrupts them, reminding them that Adams is still on hold. And then Adams asks if they'll be passing any superior facilities. He wants him to have the best care.
Yep.
And Kirk puts him back on hold again. McCoy's like, there are no superior facilities. He knows that.
Yeah.
So something fishy is going on down there. They take him off hold again, and Kirk says that regulations require him to open an investigation, and Adams seems to very much welcome this, but asks them to limit the number of people coming down, which is a red flag.
Yeah. It should be, anyway.
Right. Kirk asks McCoy to find someone in the medical department with psychiatric and penal experience.
Okay, how does he not know who was on his staff, first of all?
That's what I'm saying.
So, of course, McCoy recommends this Dr. Helen Noel.
The Enterprise returns to the colony. McCoy and Spock agree to keep Van Gelder aboard the Enterprise while Kirk conducts an investigation. And McCoy has assigned a specialist in rehabilitative therapy, Dr. Helen Noel. $5, she's a pretty young white guest star.
With pointy boobs.
Yeah. There's one point later where she's laying on the floor, and that's when I noticed the silhouette being like very not Right. Whatever undergarments she's wearing is very weird.
Okay.
It was like Madonna bra or something. I don't know.
Super pointy.
Yeah.
They're like very pointy.
So sure enough, we get to the transporter. And again, as if Kirk doesn't know all of his crew.
Yeah. And so he sees her.
Right.
And you can tell by the way that the looks that they're giving each other that they know each other and they have history, but he apparently didn't recognize her name.
Right. And he's like taken aback by this hot brunette in her mini dress uniform.
Yeah.
She introduces herself and says, "We've met." And
she's like, "Don't you remember?"
Like, come on, Jim. You would have remembered.
He remembers and he's annoyed. He does remember.
Yeah.
He's annoyed.
There's a lot of flirtation here. Apparently, Kirk dropped in on the science lab Christmas party and, I don't know, showed her his thrusters.
Oh, my.
Sorry.
Also, though, Christmas party, I know they get better at this later on, but I really would... I would think eventually we would stop celebrating Earth holidays like this.
Yeah.
Especially like the birth of Christ. You're supposed to be like scientist-minded.
Don't you know
like,
that
in the future?
Like there's like so much out there in space, like, but you're still clinging to some myth that you have no proof of.
Right. And maybe they're celebrating Christmas the way I do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is the not religious way.
Yeah. Just a end of the year thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, Kirk and Noel beam down outside this small building, which we learn is an elevator. When they step inside, the doors shut, and they start descending rapidly.
And of course, that throws them against each other.
Of course. Kirk's got to hold her tight.
Oh.
When the elevator stops at the bottom, Dr. Adams is waiting for them. We should take note of the doctor's jumpsuit logo here, right? This thing on his chest is like an open palm with a dove between the thumb and the first finger, and then like a sun behind it.
Oh, I did not. I knew it was something, but I did not pay attention to.
I did not do the research required to look up the significance of that.
Mm-hmm.
But there it is.
Huh.
Introductions all around, and then Kirk tries to hand over his phaser, right? Because he's like, I know the rules here. Here's my gun. And Adams lets him keep it. Why? Like... He doesn't even make a good argument for it. He's like, yeah, I know how you military types are. You feel naked without your guns.
But that's a total disregard for the
safety of the
penal colony
yes.
and stuff like that. And then he also introduces his strangely emotionless therapist, which her name is Lethe.
Yeah.
She's a strange one.
Yeah. We'll come back to this, but keep this in mind as you watch Friends. Why is she in this episode?
She has no purpose.
She has nothing to do in this episode at all.
No, she doesn't do anything. She does like a couple of things that like anyone could have done.
When she appears in the next scene that she's in, I was like, oh, I forgot she was part of this episode.
And they do that whole lighting thing when they introduce her, where they cast her in like a shadow, like half of her face is in shadow, as if to say she's not what she seems.
Right.
But that's,
maybe I guess, there was more meant for her in the script that had to get cut.
Maybe they cut it because, yeah.
Yeah, he explains that Lethe had came in as a patient and stayed on as a therapist. Like, oh, we fixed her and now she's a therapist.
Because, yeah, that's what happens.
And now that I just said that out loud, though, now that makes more sense as like, did they run her through this brain machine and it like wiped her blank and then they loaded in this therapist stuff?
Yeah, because you can't just be a therapist because you choose to be. Like,
right.
You've got to go through schooling.
And does that
stuff.
Explain why she's lit weird and acting weird and
Maybe.
all of that stuff? Maybe.
Yeah.
Kirk asks her what her crime was, and we learned that burying the past is part of the treatment. Not going to talk about that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what she did. That person doesn't exist anymore. And again, there's an air of distrust in these scenes.
Yeah.
But as a concept, it seems very progressive. Like, today, if you fuck up, we slap you, we put that scarlet letter on, and it's super glued to you. You never take it off.
You are always reminded of what you've done.
Yeah. So it seems like it should be progressive.
But it's not.
But it's not.
Yeah.
Adams is walking them through the facility on like a tour. Mm-hmm. And they're passing these people that look all happy and peaceful. maybe a little too happy because they all have that like dopey look on their face.
Kind of blank look, but
like me and Allie after 30 minutes into a recording session, if you know what I mean. They come across one guy who seems like he's lost in space. Adam says it's an experiment that didn't work, and Kirk insists on learning more despite Helen's protestations. Back on the Enterprise, Van Gelder is having fits again, talking about neural neutralizers, and Spock wants to know more about that. All Van Gelder can say, though, is like a room, a device, a door, a control panel, a ceiling, a light.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV.
Which is very disjointed in trying to explain what's going on. When Spock asks what happens in this room, Van Gelder gets like so worked up he can't even speak, and McCoy has to hit him with another hypo spray. Down on the planet, Dr. Adams is explaining this experiment to Kirk. It's the neural neutralizer. And while he says they don't get much use out of it now, there's a man sitting there in the chair going through it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there's another man at the controls just twisting buttons. Dr. Adams did mention something that he calls it a personal failure of some experiment that went wrong.
Right.
And he claims that the machine is harmless at low intensity and it's only used to calm agitated inmates. But he says the effects are temporary. And the Noelle, who is like supposed to be like the expert or whatever she is,
right?
She's so satisfied with that explanation, but Kirk's still suspicious.
And Kirk even asks the guy who running the control panel, like, hey, how does it work?
That dude's like, he's a zombie. He's like a zombie. He says it's quite simple, and he twists some knobs. And then this Miss Noelle, she's not an expert at all. She's not very helpful.
No, she's like, I'm familiar with this type of therapy, but I'm not familiar with like this particular system. But
I'm sure Dr. Adams hasn't created some kind of chamber of horrors.
Which is exactly what he did, of course.
Yeah. But she's not using any to make that observation. Mm-hmm. She's not using anything scientific or like even anything related to her profession. She's supposed to be like freaking consulting.
Right.
She's like,
again, it's that sort of appeal to authority of like, this guy can do no wrong because he's, such a leader in the field or whatever.
Yeah, let's just let him do what he wants.
And this is where we learn that Van Gelder lost his mind using the device on himself, alone on its highest setting.
Adams is all blaming it all on Van Gelder, saying, "Oh, he's a stubborn man. He's tried to use it for too long and too high intensity, and it's all his fault. And he's in that state, so we had to, lock him away."
As we leave this scene, the neural neutralizer operator leans into a microphone and says to the patient in the chair, "You will forget all you have heard. To remember any part of it will cause you pain." So now we kind of understand why anytime Van Gelder tries to explain something, he goes into this real painful reaction.
Yeah, like his name or anything.
The patient in the chair looks horrified.
Yeah.
That was some good face acting by that dude.
And I don't think we see that dude again.
I don't think so. Back in sickbay, Spock and McCoy are on the phone with Kirk, and Spock mentions that Van Gelder mentioned this treatment room, and Kirk's like, "Oh, yeah, there was an accident. Yeah, that's where Van Gelder was injured."
Mm-hmm.
But Spock doesn't feel safe to speak openly because Adams is in the room.
Right.
So Adams recognizes this and leaves to attend other business. And then we learn that Van Gelder is warning that they're in danger. Again, Dr. Noelle is very resistant to this idea that there's any funny business happening. And this reminded me, I don't know if you felt this or not, but this reminded me very much of the way that Dr. Daner was protective of Gary Mitchell.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
She was like, no, don't be, that's foolish to think that, you're in danger and that Van Gelder is suffering from a neural synapse damage and it's no wonder he's having delusions. And again, you're blaming it on the victim in a way. And she's just no common sense at all. These psychiatrists are terrible.
McCoy and Spock still aren't convinced everything's fine, and Kirk decides that they're going to spend the night at the facility, and Van Gelder goes nuts when he hears this over the radio. But still, he decides to stay, agreeing to check in every 4 hours. Van Gelder is still yelling, "No, don't let them stay there. You have to warn your captain."
Yep.
And McCoy's about to hypo him again, and there's a lucid moment here where he kind of calms himself down enough to say, like, no, don't do that to me.
Please don't hypospray me
I'll
again.
be calm. Right.
Yeah. And then Spock, I think, this might be the first time he's mind melded, but Spock says, I'm going to mind meld with Van Gelder to enable them to tell his story. And I think this is the first time we see the Vulcan mind meld.
After the commercial, Spock is preparing to perform the very first on-screen mind meld. And he says he's never tried it on a human before and explains it's a very private thing for Vulcans.
Okay.
Is it a sex thing?
I don't know, but because in the later episodes, they be doing it like frivolously, like everywhere.
I do like, too, that Spock makes sure to get consent from Van Gelder before starting this mind meld.
Wonderful.
Right?
Oh, wonderful. See, Vulcans they're the shit.
And then he sets out like some of the rules that this mind meld MacGuffin will have to follow throughout the franchise's future.
Mm-hmm.
It won't affect anybody else in the room, only the person he touches.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a very unusual procedure from what it later becomes, because Spock's like moving his hands like all over his face. He keeps changing the positions of his hand.
And in later episodes, it's only like around the eyes and the temple.
And it's like a 1 or 2-handed thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there's no my mind to your mind, my thoughts to your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
He says you begin to feel euphoria.
Mm-hmm.
Your body floats. We move together, our minds sharing the same thoughts. And then when they speak during this later, they're like talking as one. Meanwhile, Kirk arrives at Noelle's quarters and asks what she thought of the inmates they'd seen earlier. She's like, oh, they seemed fine. But Kirk says they all seemed a little blank.
And she can't believe he's questioning Dr. Adams. She's the one who's delusional. Like, use your brain, lady.
Kirk still doesn't trust that machine and wants to get a better look at it. And again, Noelle keeps defending Adams and his methodology. Spock is mind melding with Van Gelder now and gets through that pain programming. And we learn that Adams is the one behind all of this memory wiping and reprogramming. And he tried to fight it. Says that, remember, we tried to fight it. Van Gelder describes that emptiness of having his brain essentially wiped. All that's left now is for Spock and McCoy to let Kirk know what's going on, and then Scoob and the gang can show up, pull the mask off of Dr. Adams, and he'll say, and I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for you meddling kids. This very much felt like a Scooby-Doo episode.
Scooby-Doo.
The bad guy is not the person you thought was the bad guy.
Yeah.
Down in the treatment room, Kirk is planning to subject himself to this treatment now for some reason.
With Noelle at the controls, just him and her.
And he's like, I want to make sure this is safe. You'll know if it's hurting me, right?
Right.
And she's like, oh yeah, sure, I'll know.
We'll do it on the lowest setting.
Yeah, right. So he sits down in the chair. Noelle turns the machine on for a couple seconds. And when she turns it off, Kirk's like, okay, go ahead whenever you're ready.
She's like, I did already, but you didn't notice that? Your mind went blank. Your face went completely blank for a second.
So he suggests another round, this time with a harmless suggestion, which Noelle decides will be, you're hungry. And sure enough, the machine shuts off and Kirk's like, whose dick do I have to suck to get some food around here?
She says, wow, it worked. She said that she put a thought into his head that he was hungry.
She's like, yeah, I did that to you. I did that. I put that thought in your head.
Mm-hmm.
So Kirk suggests, like a fucking idiot, another round.
Of course. Let's do
just
something
do some more.
It's only something that we would know about, you and I. So he goes back under and she starts altering the memory of their recent Christmas party encounter.
Yeah, she says at the Christmas party, what they actually did was dance and talk about the stars. But she suggests it happened differently.
Yeah.
You swept me off my feet and carried me to your
Showed me the thrusters? Is that what it was?
Oh, my.
And then it dissolve into this little dreamlike sequence where we're reliving this new version of the Christmas party where Kirk has his way with Noelle. Dissolve back to the treatment room, and Dr. Adams' henchman grabs Noelle from behind, and Adams takes over the controls, and he cranks it way up to 11. And he's like, you're madly in love with Helen. You'd lie, cheat, steal for her, sacrifice everything.
Yep. He's turning the screws, putting the screws to him. he says, you love her so much. And then he says, she's gone.
Yeah.
And then he cranks up the dials. And then he tells Kirk to drop his phaser on the floor.
Yeah.
And then he drops the phaser. But then he says, okay, now drop your communicator. And for some reason, Kirk is able to like somehow fight this a little bit or resist. So he's like, like all cramped up and everything. And he makes a call on the communicator to the Enterprise. But I don't think anyone answers because the shields are up.
The security shield's still in place.
But he's at the end of it, he's just laughing hysterically and in pain.
Now we're in Kirk's quarters at the colony, and Helen is wiping his forehead tenderly with a cloth. He starts repeating all that stuff that Adams put in his mind. Helen,
I love you.
For years I've loved you. Helen's like, you got to snap out of this. And remember, he put all this shit in your head.
But I mean, okay, wasn't she kind of trying to do that too? Just to test it out? But only Adams took it to like the level 100. But she was already trying to alter the memory of that night because she did kind of want him to love her or at least remember her.
Kirk says he remembers. And then there's a rapey moment here where it seems like he's about to pin her up against the wall. He's doing that like catwalk towards her real slow. And then...
But he's not really after her. He's after the big duct in the wall.
So he notices there's this vent on the wall that might lead to the power controls. Mm-hmm. If they can get there, maybe they can shut down the security field and get through to the Enterprise. Despite having no experience in anything electrical.
She's not even good at being a psychiatrist, but he wants her to go and shut off the power.
A very high voltage power.
Yeah, he's like, one wrong move and you're dead. But I want you to do it.
Off you go then, babe.
So he's still lucid enough to like scheme and like try to get out of this.
So she goes off into the duct, and just as Kirk gets the vent closed, a couple of stooges appear at the door and take Kirk for another treatment. In the treatment room, Adams is using the device now to program Kirk to trust him and says that Van Gelder was on his hands and knees by this point in the process. Like, you're really handling the pain very good, Captain.
Yeah.
Lathe comes in. Remember her?
Yeah, like this was the only useful thing she did was she's like tells Dr. Adams that Dr. Noel is gone and can't be found anywhere. So I think he sends some henchmen after her.
Adams cranks the machine up big time here, demanding Kirk, tell me where you sent her, what instructions did you give her? But Kirk puts up a good fight. He's in terrible pain, though, and he kind of stands from the chair and then collapses on the floor. Meanwhile, Helen's found her way through the ducts to a power room. And again, despite having no training or knowledge, she starts trying to turn this lever.
Yep.
Some security stooges come in looking for her. And so she's got to like sneak around and avoid them. And finally, she pulls another lever and it shuts down the power. We get some real quick cuts kind of back and forth here. The treatment room, the device shuts down and Kirk snaps to, kind of gives Adams a fight. Then back to the power room, one of the security guys knocks Noel to the ground and turns the power back on. But then he goes back over to Noel, who's lying on the floor, and she gives him a kick to the... Knocks him right back into the high voltage lines.
And he fries.
Like a bug in a bug zapper.
So now with the force field off, Spock beams down to the planet. And so the force field's already off. Okay.
Right.
Am I missing something here? The force field's already off.
Yep. So we can beam in and out.
But then he goes and he ends up in the power room.
Mm-hmm.
And then he turns something off. And then he says, okay. And he radios back up. But if the force field is down...
How could you transport through it?
Isn't it already down?
Up? Right.
Like, what else did you do, dude?
Are there two different force fields?
Maybe.
One that prevents communication and one that prevents beaming? That's the only way this could work. I was right there with you, though. Adams is on the floor in the treatment room now, and the machine kicks back on. The power goes back on.
Yeah, because Spock turned it on again, which I don't understand why he turned the power back on.
So
I don't get it.
So now he's lying on the floor looking up at this thing in the ceiling, and it's wiping his brain now.
Right.
Kirk and Noel arrive back at their quarters at about the same time, and Kirk, still affected by the machine, lays a big fat one on Helen. And she's like resisting, again, rapey.
Yeah.
She's resisting, and Spock steps through the door, and she's like, remember, Dr. Adams did this to you. Off they go to the treatment room to find Dr. Adams, and on the way, they find McCoy and the security team with a bunch of inmates under guard. Mm-hmm. Inside the room, they find Dr. Adams dead.
Oh my God! They've killed
Dr. Adams.
You bastards!
Noel insists the device wasn't on high enough to have killed him, but Kirk counters that by that machine, Adams was alone, empty. And this calls back to that moment in sick bay, right, when Van Gelder was being mind melded, and they talked about like loneliness and emptiness that this machine causes, because it like wipes your brain. The button on the episode, then, Kirk arrives on the bridge and learns that Van Gelder called from the colony. He wanted Kirk to know that the treatment room and its equipment were destroyed.
Awesome.
McCoy finds it hard to believe that a man could die from loneliness, but Kirk's like, unless you've sat in that chair, you couldn't possibly know. A head warp factor 1. Okay, so our humanist themes, right? So Dr. Van Gelder felt he had no right to use his treatment on the inmates without using it on himself first.
I can appreciate that.
Yep.
That's 100%.
That seems really, really ahead of its time.
That is not how, like, obviously, we don't do that.
Oh, no.
We don't do that here today. Ever. We never, like, doctors don't test stuff on themselves.
Well, and I guess there's some other questions that come out of this, too. Like, supposedly, those whose mental illness is so overpowering, could they consent?
Yeah.
Like, at what point does a mental illness change your ability to consent?
Yeah.
And we've talked about that before some, right? Like when I talked about people with attraction to minors and right. So can we force treatment on people, and should we?
Yeah.
So you got these people at this penal colony. Are we forcing them? We are. We're forcing them to sit in this machine.
Yeah. It's painful. I mean, they don't know what they're getting into.
Right.
But I mean, I think the theme is progressive in a way to where they're looking for a different alternative to just locking someone up. Like McCoy says, a cage is a cage, and they are looking for something
better.
Yeah, but
this isn't it.
This turns evil. Yeah, right. Pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because I swear, everyone with power ends up being corrupt.
Yeah.
Like, and you see this theme over and over and over again.
Yeah.
They cannot just be happy with a little bit of power. The power to help people becomes the power to control people. And I think that's what Gene is pointing out again and again and again and again.
Yeah. And then this idea that you could just like die of extreme loneliness.
I mean, I guess. I don't know.
Did we need to end this episode with Adams dying? Like, was that in service of that?
I think, yeah, I mean, I think it would have been better if he was alive and put in a penal colony.
Right.
And then subjected to, well, he wouldn't have survived the machine.
Right.
But he would, if he would have been put in a penal colony, and so he would have a little taste of what he's trying, because he can't put himself in those inmates' position.
Right.
And I think him being in a prison would do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just the normal theme of like how they use women to just sprinkle them throughout. And then I don't know if you noticed, like nobody was listening to her anyway. Nobody was listening to her anyway. But then she also gave like bad advice.
When a man says it though, then they'll listen.
Yeah.
They could say the exact same thing.
Yeah. So I mean, other than the relationship, their past relationship having, being able to be used with the neural neutralizer, I don't really see.
Suzanne Wasson played Lethe.
Okay.
Who
she
is
does
she?
look familiar.
I'm going to look this up real quick and see what other credits she has. The A-Team, 1 episode. Heart to Heart, 1 episode. 1 episode of Star Trek. It had to be somebody's like friend or something, like like, hey, we're going to write this part for you because you're somebody's cousin or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know what that reasoning might be, but she and her character served no purpose at all in this episode. You could delete that character completely, and this plays exactly the same way.
Yeah, he could have used one of his henchmen to come and tell him that. I don't get it. Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of the dead, now let's take some time to honor them.
Deservedly so. Dr. Tristan Adams met his end.
He's dead, Jim.
We are assembled here today to pay final respects to our honored dead.
Dr. Adams, he was strictly diabolical. He wanted to control people, neurological. He died by the workings of his own creation. His mind wasn't strong enough to fight the neural neutralization.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Boy, bye. May he not rest in peace.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Let's get right to business.
Fine, I'm authorized to pay an equitable price. Federation has invested a great deal of money in our training. They're about due for a small return.
Listen, we pay off percentages. We're entitled to a little service for our money, huh?
Is this the way your citizens do business? Their right of petition?
They pay their percentages and the boss takes care of them.
Is there anything else?
We ready to thank our patrons?
Thank you, patrons.
You are what keeps the show going. There are a lot of free ways to support the show. You can leave us a review, give us all the stars, share out the episodes, tell your friends that are nerds like you and love Star Trek. We'll pick out some of the reviews and read them on the show, or put them on our website. I've got a special place for those, and I don't have any to plug in there yet. So hop on that.
Yeah, please let us know what you think. Yeah.
But the best way to support the show, of course, is to give us some of your money by becoming a patron at patreon.com/humanisttrek. And the buy-in is as little as $3 a month, and that really does go a long way to help supporting the show.
I assume you're loitering around here to learn what efficiency rating I plan to give your cadets.
Trainees, to the briefing room. Is that all you gotta say? What about my performance?
Aren't you dead?
I don't believe this was a fair test of my command abilities. There was no way to win.
There's no correct resolution. It's a test of character.
Now, what is that supposed to mean?
I am understandably curious.
May I ask you a question?
Who's been holding up the damn elevator?
All right, now let's bring Becca back in for the exciting answer to this week's question for Dagger of the Mind. Remind us the question.
Which characters didn't appear in this episode? Who are they? And for extra points, why? So in addition to you get a point for each person you name correctly.
Okay.
You'll get extra points if you got the reason why that I was able to find.
So we worked together on this one.
Yes, so.
And we said
joint points.
Scotty, Sulu, and Janice. Mm-hmm. And our reasoning was because they had to pay for a bunch of guest stars.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Yay!
Seriously. So the reason I could find on the interwebs, the original script did have Scotty in it.
Oh, really?
But they decided to when Van Gelder,
what would he have had to do in this episode?
When he was operating the transporter. When
they had to make a mistake. He made a mistake.
Beamed. Right?
Okay.
Well, yeah, they decided to nix his appearance because it would have cost them $890 to pay him for that one little thing,
right?
And to replace him with a random whoever
extra,
was
right?
Cheaper, and gave them more money for the rest of the production.
Wow.
They were probably making like $50 or something.
Something like that. So you guys got 4 points.
Awesome.
Woo, hot diggity dog.
+4. Hell yeah. All right, then let's go ahead and get the question for our next episode, which is
Corbomite maneuver.
The Corbomite maneuver.
I remember the Corbomite
The Corbomite maneuver.
Say that fast 5 times.
I'm not even high yet. The Corbomite maneuver. I do remember this episode.
All right.
Okay, go.
I'll be disappointed if you don't get this.
I don't
but
remember
also, I don't know. I don't know. It depends, I guess, on how much you remember.
Okay.
The actor that played Little Valak is the younger brother of what famous child actor of the time?
Oh, God.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know.
All right. Well, we'll see you next week then.
Oh, damn you.
Now, next week, if we know it, can we like...
Well, yeah, I'm always going to give you the opportunity after you watch the episode.
I don't know that I agree with that.
What?
Because then we have the opportunity to go look it up.
But we...
I mean...
Right.
Don't go reading the credits either.
But I mean, okay, but that's...
if you read the credits, it'd give it away.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe not. If I didn't...
Because here's the thing.
If I didn't know this and I read the credits and somebody gave me this question, I would make an assumption.
Okay, so this is the episode.
I'm giving it away.
Help me remember. This is the episode. There was a little person actor. And then there was like this alien creature thing. Mm-hmm. Which one was Baylock?
I thought the Corbomite remover, was this the one with the spinning like Rubik's Cubes in space? Rubik's Cube thing, square thing?
Here's what I remember about it.
Okay.
They encounter a ship and they're like, we're going to destroy you. And the Enterprise is no match for them. And Kirk's like, you can't destroy us because we have Corbomite. And he makes up this gimmicky thing that's
bullshit, basically.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Like if you destroy us, it'll blow up and destroy us both or something like that. That's all I remember. Wow. That's all I really remember about the episode.
Okay. I remember like a spinning
but I think
box in the
like when you said Baylock, that reminded me of that. And clearly this is the episode. There was a little person actor and he went on to appear in one of the more recent Star Treks, I think. Yeah.
I don't know.
God. But he has a brother?
He has a brother.
Don't know.
A very famous brother.
I will have to see it because if I see it, I'll probably know exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, join us next time for the exciting answer to that. And if you want to play along, you know how to do that. Go to the social media, use the hashtag Starfleet Challenge, share out your answer, share out the episode.
And don't read the credits.
And don't cheat. Yeah. Russell.
Yeah, well, he always reads the credits. So
yeah, he does. I skip the. Do you watch the opening credits when you do your reviews? No, I skip them. Intro. I'm gonna have to stop skipping the intro.
No, I'm usually writing notes, and by that time I'm like, oh, I don't have to pause, and I'm writing notes.
So one time you don't pause.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Next time on Humanist Trek, Season 1, Episode 11, The Corbomite Maneuver. While exploring an uncharted area of space, the Enterprise is outmatched and taken in tow by a massive spherical spaceship. I've told you what I remember about this episode.
I don't remember a whole lot. I know there's like a spinning Rubik's Cube in space. I don't remember too much.
Yeah.
So, I was going to say, I do remember one thing about this.
Oh.
The Corbomite maneuver, this was like what's in the running to be one of the pilots.
Oh.
So this was the third.
Really?
Yes. So this was the third one produced.
Huh.
It was, so when we watch it, it'll be like recorded earlier than some of the ones we've already seen.
I'm getting whiplash.
I know, right? So yeah, just to keep that in mind.
Cool. All right, well, that'll be our episode for next week, the Corbomite Maneuver.
Live long and prosper.
Kapla.
Humanist Trek is available wherever you replicate your podcasts. Follow us on all the social medias at Humanist Trek. Become a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Trek. Open hailing frequencies to podcast@humanisttrek.com and visit our website, humanisttrek.com. Humanist Trek is a production of Sarah Austin Media.